Stitch People. Welcome to the Stitch People podcast. I'm Lizzie Bean, your host and the founder of Stitch People, where our goal with cross-stitching is to inspire your personal creativity, and our goal with podcasting is to help you make some new friends while you're at it. Today's episode is so much fun. We get to know Annie, who is, I think, just a lovely person. She is a voiceover artist professionally. She's got 2 lovely children. She is a go-getter. She is someone with great attention to detail. You can tell by the way she speaks and the things that are important to her how open-hearted and wholehearted she is, and how intentionally she chooses to live her life, which is something that I find very inspiring. So I hope you enjoy getting to know Annie, and let's get on to the conversation. Hello, Annie.
Hello.
Thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So I can see for if we do the video on YouTube release, we're still a little TBD about that. But for those who are listening, we are on a Zoom call, and I can see that you are in a very professional-looking studio booth. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I do voiceovers from home, and
That's
even
great.
like pre-COVID, I did it from home because I have 2 young kids, and I just couldn't get to studios and stuff. So
Right.
we were doing an attic renovation anyway, and we built this booth.
That's
So it's been
so
a
cool.
godsend these
So
past
what
couple of years.
kind of voiceovers do you primarily do? Do you do like audiobooks, like industrial or commercial or animation?
I do a lot of industrial stuff.
Okay,
So a lot of
okay.
stuff for companies. I do a lot of e-learning, which is
okay.
what I really like to do. I used to be a teacher.
Oh, great.
So I really like e-learning. I like doing I do some stuff with Penguin Random House where I do like kids
wow.
books, which is really fun.
What
so
did
yeah,
you used to teach?
I used to teach 2nd and 3rd grade.
Okay,
Before
so
I
the
had kids,
children's book is like a nice
It's all
integration
in the thing. Yeah.
That's great. And is your e-learning for younger ages as well? Is that
I
or
do
is it
some
general?
like textbooks, which
Oh, interesting.
it's weird doing a textbook for kids who need it read aloud to them. So
Yeah, yep.
that's the kind of thing it is. And a lot of it's, you read off a multiple choice question.
Right.
And then you also have to read the like, good job, you got it. And then like, try again. And I was like, these kids are going to really start hating me because I'm just going to keep telling them, try again next time. And they're like, say it in different ways. So it's not,
gosh.
But I do that. And I also do actually a lot of adult, a lot of like grown up, like continuing education stuff.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I work with a company that does, like for contractors to get their, like stay certified. So it's a lot of like contractor talk.
Interesting.
Which is
Like
interesting.
home construction
Oh
contracting?
yeah. And I'm learning so much.
Cool.
And every time, like I did one on a closet system. And then I was like, to my husband, I was like, I have all these ideas for like fixing up our closet.
I love that. I love it's like you're learning by default just by having to read it
or like,
yourself.
let me tell you about this new decking material I think we should try when we redo our deck. He's like, stop.
I love that. I love that. What is the what's like the strangest voiceover gig you've ever had?
Oh gosh.
Do you have any like super weird ones?
Nothing's been super weird. No, because I do a lot of like, people really like my voice for like healthcare. Like when you have to redo your healthcare.
Nice
every
warm
year.
bedside manner voice.
Yeah, I don't think I've done anything. I wish I had a good story for that. I don't think I've ever done anything that was really weird. Yeah.
That's kind of a relief.
Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely say no to stuff. Like I won't do like political stuff. I'm just like not going to touch any of that with a 10-foot pole. So there's some stuff I won't do, but
sure. Well, that's so great. So interesting. Yeah. My husband and I met doing community theater production. And so we sort of are theater trained, and Spencer does it more than I do, but we've both done a little bit of voiceover, a lot of on-screen industrial stuff like green screen.
Yeah.
when we were in college, we taught software classes, and so we learned all about the Adobe suite, Microsoft suite. We actually briefly were on teams that helped write certification exams for like Microsoft and Adobe. And so there's a company locally that makes courses about how to certify, especially their emphasis is in IT systems generally and Microsoft. And so they love us because we have acting training and know the software inside and out. So when we're reading these words, we actually know what they mean.
It sounds like Well,
yeah.
I've done a decent amount of like medical stuff, which
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot better at. But some of those words, I was like, oh my God, it was like AP Bio.
Right. All the
like
Latin just coming across.
But now it's like it can kind of roll off the tongue.
Yeah.
But like, and even with a lot of stuff with the contractor work, there was one thing I did, and it was something about building like the frame inside a house, and they were talking about shear walls. Like shear, like wind shear. And I didn't really make that connection in my head.
Yeah.
And I kept saying shear walls, like sheer. I like put the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Right. Like a sheer
like
wall, like a see-through
wall.
wall or something. It's sheer. It's a sheer wall.
Yeah, but it's a sheer wall.
Right.
So I was like,
shearing.
they're going to know. So I had to go through and fix like 60. I had to like punch in 60 things of like sheer wall instead of sheer wall.
Monotonous.
But it's like those little things where if you're in the industry, it really helps.
Yeah.
So you sound like you know what you're talking about.
Exactly. That's so cool. Oh, I love that. I could talk about this forever, but I won't, alas. So how does a voiceover artist stumble across cross-stitching? Are you a lifelong cross-stitcher? Is that something you picked up recently?
Not at all.
I love that.
I've always been not made fun of, but in a cute way. Like I'm kind of an old lady. I love my cats, and I like to just have quiet time. So I have 2 kids, and I was just looking for something that I could do when I wasn't working. And when you're just sitting with your kids, and I'm trying to think of, I started only 4 years ago.
Hey, that's great.
And I'm trying to think of how old they were. Maybe like my youngest must have been 3 and my oldest was like 7. And, just when they're playing and you want to be kind of present, but they were getting to the age where they can kind of play by themselves a little bit more. And I didn't need to be right there. So, the Stitch People book came up on my Instagram, like ads or whatever. And I was like, oh, that looks fun. Like, look how cute those little people are. They're so cute. And, and I was like, I can make a square.
Right.
I can make a square. It's just a bunch of squares. I can do
that.
So,
exactly.
So
I need to like cut that out of this and just like soundbite loop it on our website or something. Just a bunch of squares. I can do that because it is. It totally is.
It absolutely is. And so I got the book, and it was just, I was like, this is so weirdly relaxing. I just made like a little family, and our little family, and I was like, oh, I love this so much. And I look back, it's still hanging up, and I'm like, I could do a lot better now. Even though it is just squares, like as you get better, the squares get neater.
Yeah. And there's little techniques and details and, tricks that you sort of gain with practice. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just been such a nice thing to do. Well, like the kids are playing, instead of like sitting there on my phone, like doom scrolling. That was the other thing. It was like doom. I was just like, I can't read the news anymore. I can't look at Facebook. It was just, I feel like it was a time where everything just felt like it was a lot, which I can't even think about what was going on because it just feels like a constant stream of like, what is happening in the world.
We're all just in stream of consciousness mode now. Like time is nothing.
Yeah. But it's just such a nice thing to do and just sit and you can kind of focus on it, but you can also have an ear out for everybody and you can have a conversation. I feel like sitting with my friends and stitching and, when my kids have a play date and I'm stitching, all the kids are like, what are you doing? Look at that little person. They're so cute, So it's really like a lovely thing to do. And it's also nice to be able to finish something.
Yes.
Like as a parent.
Yes.
There's really, you just feel like you're constantly working and there's no end line,
right?
There's no end finish line. So to sit down and work on something and then say like, I made this. It's
It
just
is
really,
complete. It is
it's
done.
complete. It's done. It's really nice, you know. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And I mean, especially just life. Like my least favorite chore is laundry because laundry is never, ever done. There is no, like you can do the dishes. Like you can get to a point where all the dishes are out of the dishwasher, out of the sink and like put away. You can get to a point of being done. And you'll reuse them, of course, but momentarily. But with laundry, I mean, it's always going and you're wearing the clothes and you're doing like, oh my gosh, it's just so stressful to me. And so yeah, I totally relate with that. I don't know if it's like a little dopamine rush or something that happens when you're adult and you're able to just finish something and not have one less thing to do on the incessant to-do list that just never ends.
And what else is nice about it? And then I'll frame it and I'm like, I literally, I'm very type A and I always want to make sure I do my best. And it's like, I have framed this and I can't do anything else to it. Like
I love that.
Done. You know?
I love that. Like gated off.
Like it is
in the
done,
frame.
You know?
Yeah.
So there's something like it's just really nice. And I used to knit, you know, I can knit I can knit squares. I can knit a pot holder square or like a scarf square. Like that's how much I can do. Something about like the 3D aspect of it and like crocheting, I can't zone out the same way that I can with cross stitch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
It's just flat. So just something about it works well with my brain.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that it appeals to you and that you found something that you enjoy. I really feel like what you said about how surprisingly kind of relaxing it is. It's because it's like repetitive enough that you can sort of check out, but at the same time, it's as interesting as you want it to be.
Exactly,
so you could do, especially as far as Stitch People is concerned, you could do like blue jeans and a t-shirt and like completely cross-stitch person, cross-stitch hair, cross-stitch everything. Yep. And just like, it's like a handful of colors and you do the thing. Or you could make it really complicated and put floral, border around and do the real hair look. And, you can make it as complicated as you want, which is also its own type of fun. But there's something very zen. And not that the latter isn't, relaxing necessarily, especially as you get more comfortable.
It's a different way though.
But yeah, sure. I mean, it's really almost meditative where especially for people who are used to staying busy and active and all of that, like it keeps your hands busy and like you said, prevents you from scrolling or fussing. It's like a fidget spinner with a really great gift at the end. You can just have something to put on display.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of the other things I was just thinking about was that, my kids are watching me all the time. And they're to the age now where I'm like, you can sit there and see me on my phone or on the computer doing whatever all day. Or like when you have downtime, you could pick up something and make something.
Oh, I love that.
So they see me doing that.
Sure.
And it's just really nice. Of course, I'm also usually like listening to a podcast, like a murder podcast.
True crime.
They need to know that. But, it's just like as a parent, it's just kind of a nice for everybody to kind of do. And I tried to like teach them how to do it and they can stick with it for a little bit.
Sure.
But it's a lot for little hands.
Yeah.
But I got a couple summers ago, I got a set of perler beads and they made their own Stitch People perler beads.
Yes,
because it's just squares.
The patterns translate perfectly. I think they're so cute. I've seen a couple people do those and I love it. I think it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Fun to think outside the box.
Totally. It's a very nice translation.
Yeah.
And they get still the sense of like, I can make a person.
Right. And you make yourself or your friend or your favorite, character or something. Yeah. Super fun. Yeah. And leading by example. I love that so much. So you mentioned that you've tried your hand at knitting and crocheting. Do you have any other crafts or creative outlets?
No. I mean, we do a lot of like housework,
Sure.
So I do that kind of thing. We're in an old house, so there's always something to do.
Which I will say is its own form of creativity because you're making choices and I don't think I'm somebody who is very impacted by my environment. I get a lot of comments about my jungle wallpaper in my office.
I've been looking at it this whole
And
time.
it's because I was sitting in this office just that's kind of like a grayish color. And like, I would get so bummed out just having to sit in this plain room. And it made me not want to do work at all. And when I realized that it was actually my surroundings that were part of the problem, it was like, oh, okay. And I got to thinking about it and like how I could bring in more color or whatever. So yeah, I do think house projects, it's easy to think like, oh, it's big, it's construction, it's messy, it's remodeling. But no, it's also its own creative outlet because you're creating the space in which you live and can foster the life that you want to be leading, which is huge. So I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Get out that sledgehammer, folks.
Not that we're like past that.
You're all in the details now. Yeah.
Little things.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much a cross stitch enthusiast, which I think is really, really fun. Do you have were you raised in a particularly creative family or crafty, artsy family?
Not particularly. My aunt does, she would always like sew us little stuffed animals and stuff, but not particularly. It was never like a big thing. For me, the creative outlet was always like I was like the theater kid. I was in the choir and all that stuff. So like that was kind of more my thing.
Sure.
But no, it was just, I was like, I can do, and I can draw fairly well if push comes to shove. But yeah, I was just like, I could do squares.
I love that. And it's so, as intimidating as it can be, the process of putting together your own pattern, it really is just squares. Like it is, when people say, oh, I'm scared, I don't know how to cross stitch. It's like, you do this. You just, X.
I was like, just figure out which way you want to go.
Yeah,
and like,
it's just X's.
You just make squares and plan it out. That's the only other thing is like, I've really started to like draw out so I can really zone out.
Yeah, right.
I know I have to fill in each section that I traced out, but
yeah, a little work ahead of time can really help you just like, I was going to say speed through, and it's not necessarily speeding through. That's the point. But just like you said, like you can really get in the zone and not have to stress during the process of actually making
or like,
it.
Realize you made a huge mistake in that.
Right.
Because I've learned.
Yes, I have to admit, I've done the same where you're like, oh, I've got the basics down. Like I kind of know the shapes. I'll just start. I'll just jump in. And it's like, oh no. That's why some people, if I teach a class or whatever, I always go through kind of what you can do to map it out on the back and draw some guidelines and whatever. I know a lot of people don't do that. Totally fine. Do what works for you. But I always make a point to demonstrate it. I still do it to a certain extent. My little hash marks are a lot less intense than they used to be. I'll just put little lines and I know what they mean instead of like full outlines or squares. Right. But I think one of the easiest things to do is get off on your counting, or if your brain isn't fully in gear and you forget the back side is a mirror of the front side and you accidentally put the characters in the wrong order. Like it just helps to plan ahead.
Just to plan. And
go figure. Yeah, it's a little life metaphor.
It's such a life metaphor. And, my youngest kid is 7 now. And she, she's at the age where she's trying new things and sometimes stuff gets hard and she'll mess it up. And I was like, girl, you've seen me. How many times have I had to like pull the whole face out of something I was stitching, and then I did it again and it was fine. And yeah, it was super frustrating. Mm-hmm. And, I just did it. And like maybe some planning would have prevented that.
Yeah.
But it's okay to screw up.
Yep.
You can always rip out the face.
I love that. Rip out the face. Just rip out the face.
But just, for then another kind of bringing it back to just demonstrating stuff for your kids, like for them to see even grown-ups have a hard time. Like they don't get it right the first time. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard. I learned how to do this. I taught myself how to do this. And it can be hard and I'll still screw it up and it's okay.
Right. Yeah. So again, just major life lessons. I love with Stitch People, especially what you were saying is I feel like you've like totally grasped it, because what's so important to me in my life and that I've tried to share with Stitch People is a lot of people, especially type A personalities, which I totally relate with that. We're so used to being like told what to do. Like, hey, what's the next thing? What's the next thing on the checklist? What are the big life goals? And when you're making your own patterns, when you're sort of driving the ship of your creativity a little bit more intentionally, those gremlins come back in hard because it's a little vulnerable to make your own creative choices. So when you do
100%.
make a mistake, it's like, oh no, like what was I thinking? Thinking that I could go rogue and make my own pattern, and oh no. But that's part of it. That's part of it. And then you're going to do it better next time as a result. You know, you have to start somewhere. So
yeah, and that's how you learn. You know, you learn by screwing up. As long as you don't do it again, then you're learning. If you do it again, then it's on you.
Yeah, then we've got some bad habits. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so if your other hobbies are of not necessarily a crafting nature, tell us more about other things you do to stay interested in your life. Do you still do theater? Do you, are you into any particular outdoor activities or anything like that?
I mean, we got a dog recently.
Not
so
like having kids isn't, a total time consumer.
Yeah.
But a dog would tell us about that. Yeah.
Her name is Phoebe.
Oh.
She's a black and white Scotch collie.
Oh, I'm a dog
so
lover.
we're walking a lot. We live right by the forest.
That's great.
So we take her for a walk a lot. I love walking. But yeah, I think one of the things that's nice about stitching is like, I think, I was the primary parent for forever, for the past 11 years now. And I didn't have time for myself. And I kind of lost a lot of, the kids are like, what's your favorite movie? I'm like, I have no idea because I haven't watched a movie for myself in a long time. Yeah. And I think probably a lot of parents, and unfortunately, especially moms, can probably relate to that, So whenever people are like, what do you like to do? I'm like, I don't really know. I don't know anymore.
It's hard. And it's hard because it's like for good reason, because that means you're being an attentive and present parent and like putting your kids first, which is lovely. But it also is so easy to neglect kind of the authentic self, if you will.
Yeah, totally.
And that's so hard, and it's easy to feel guilty about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm trying to, this is like my new thing now that like restrictions are lifting. Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to find, or at least like go see a movie for myself.
Right.
That's like, I like baby steps, like super baby steps.
I love that. I love going on dates by myself. That's what I call them. Dates by myself. It's just like sitting by myself at a restaurant with a book and just taking my time or going to a movie by yourself. It's great. Totally. It's great. Totally. I think it's so refreshing and energizing.
It is energizing. And I'll listen to, I listen to podcasts. I've really gotten into like true crime.
Yeah. Tell me, you mentioned that earlier. Which podcasts are your favorite? What are you listening to?
God. I've bbeen listening to a lot of Morbid lately. And so I do commissions. Most of the time I do cross stitch commissions.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like stitching. And I'm like, these are just infused with like serial killer energy. It's like, I need to switch. I need to switch. I mean, they look lovely. They have,
of course,
they have joy in them. But
it doesn't affect the final product.
Yeah, but it's like when you're listening to something and then you look at it back and you're like, oh yeah, like that makes me think of like some terrible...
like, oh, that's the episode we listened to about the such and such.
Ooh.
Yeah. Do you have any other recommendations? Is Morbid is the title of a
it's called
podcast?
Morbid,
okay.
Yeah.
I've not
I like
heard of
Crime
that one.
Junkie.
I love Crime Junkie.
Yeah.
I think
Morbid is...
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say Morbid is just kind of like a not dirtier version, but they like curse a lot.
Oh,
it's
sure,
like
sure.
More of like, like that guy's a, what.
Right.
But yeah, it's like a very similar kind of.
Cool. Yeah, I like that about Crime Junkie is they present, I mean, it sounds terrible to talk about, but because it's crimes and like terrible things that happen to people, but the way they talk about it and tell the stories, I've always felt is really respectful of the victims, of the families, of what's going on. And they always have great takeaways of like, if you know anyone in your life who's suffering domestic abuse, call this thing, or, here are some tips for that. Or, they even have, they have this PDF that's like, it's like if something happens to me file. And they've gone through, because that's like a huge problem of like if you go missing or something happens to you, people don't know like where you bank or what your accounts are or what your passwords are to get into your computer, where there might be information that could help solve something like, and it kind of prompts you as to like all the information that you know that would be very useful for other people if you weren't around to answer questions and they needed to find you. Like just fascinating stuff. And it's the preparedness of it. You know what I mean? And it's like me, of course, when you listen to these things on repeat, get a little paranoid. I had to take a break myself because I like binged Crime Junkie and I was like, oh my gosh, something's going to happen to me.
Yeah, I was a break.
Right. But anyway, I'm a fan. There's something, I don't know. It's that morbid curiosity.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
and
lately I've been into Smartless, if you need a lighter one. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I've tried a few.
Okay.
I thought, it made me not like Will Arnett. And
how
I
so?
always kind of liked him. And I don't know. He's so bro-y, like in a way that I don't love. And most of the other parts, I don't know.
That's fair. That's fair.
The banter between him and what's his face?
Jason
the
Bateman?
other guy from
Sean
Arrested
Hayes?
Development.
Yeah, Jason Bateman.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's a little intense. He's pretty relentless.
Yeah,
with his banter. It's a good word for it.
I want to keep liking you, Will Arnett. I'm not gonna.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I really like Dear Hank and John. That's one of my other favorites.
Okay. I've not heard of that. I'll have to check it out.
John Green. I haven't read any of his books. He's like a young adult author. But they did. He and his brother. And they do like educational YouTube videos.
Okay.
I homeschooled my children last year.
Yeah.
Like real, like legit homeschooled. So we watched a lot of them. Oh my God. It actually went really well. It went really well. But
I was going to say that that actually read to me not of like it was the worst. It read to me of like it was really hard. Your sigh there of just like
it was. I mean, looking back, it was actually really. I mean, the whole time I was like, this is great. Like my kids they're everyone says their kids are good kids. Like they're really good kids, and they made it easy to get stuff done, and we actually had a really nice time.
Oh, good.
But it's like I can't believe I homeschooled.
Good for you.
And a fourth grader. Like I thought luckily I still had a lot of my like teaching materials, but yeah. But anyway, we watched a lot of their like YouTube educational stuff, so that's how I got into them. And they're just like nerdy, funny, like they seem like good people. Like, it's nice to listen to.
That's nice, and a very nice contrast to true crime.
Yeah, no, it's like a palate cleanser. For sure.
Just like happy good people doing happy good people things.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah,
perfect. Okay, so do you have any other? You said you're not super into movies. I'm assuming that's that classic mom thing of you're watching all the kids shows and watching all the kids movies with the kids and what they want to watch. As far as I just lost my train of thought. It's completely gone. Does that ever happen? He was just like poof. Okay, I'll move on to my next question. I like to ask people, can you think of something like what's the last thing that made you laugh recently? Like a hearty, out of the blue, unexpected laugh.
It was two things that my 7-year-old said. One, she just got her first pair of overalls and she was like super excited about wearing overalls because
rite of passage.
Overalls. And she like came into my room first thing in the morning and she's wearing them and she was like, can you check and make sure that these are on okay? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, and just one of the straps was twisted, but I was like, yeah, you did a good job. And she was like, I had an adventure. Like when she was putting them on, she was just like, whoa. And it was just, she's so little. She's like very small for a 7-year-old and it was just very cute.
And the overalls adventure. Just wait till she has to put nylons on for the first time.
I was like, you just wait, girl. Like women's clothing, undergarment. I was like, just wait.
The Spanx, that'll be if overalls are an adventure, Spanx will be a journey. I tell you what. Oh, that's so cute.
100%. Yeah.
Oh,
and then she said the other day, my older one said. She said something like, I'm really afraid of like my earlobes ripping. And then my little one just looks at her and she goes, I'm afraid of, what did she say? I'm afraid of not having a skull because then my face would be flat. And I'm like,
Okay.
You've really been thinking about this.
Yeah, she's not wrong.
She is not wrong.
She's
there
not
would be
wrong.
a lot of other problems.
That is
if you
correct.
didn't
They're
have skull.
bigger problems. Bigger,
lot of
far
problems.
more pressing problems.
Yeah.
But a
it's like, where'd
flat
your
face
brain
might
go?
be one of them. Just everything would be kind of flat.
Everything would be flat. Unless then we talked about like what doesn't have a skull, like a jellyfish doesn't have a skull or an octopus doesn't have a skull. And,
There you go.
and then it went down a rabbit hole of.
Oh gosh, my biology's kicking in. The cell membranes that are the structure. I was going to say they don't have bone structure, and yet they're able to maintain their shape because of the such and such in the cell membranes. I can't.
Is
remember.
it the cytoplasm?
Something like that. Whatever. That's the structure piece. All I remember is the mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell.
Powerhouse of the cell.
And the ribosomes are the proteins.
Protease, ribosomes. I had to read something about this a couple of years ago. It was like it was like a nursing instruction manual. So it was like AP Bio on steroids.
There you go.
And I was like, I vaguely remember all these
Right.
things.
The words are coming back. It's like dusting off an old shelf.
Yeah, but it's like the words, but you don't know how they relate to each other.
Yeah. Right. Ribosomes. It's good stuff. So another question I like to ask people, they either love this question or hate this question. What does success mean to you? What does the word success mean, or like being successful?
I would say it's probably just being able to feel comfortable and safe and happy. I think those are the things.
I love that.
Like happy with what you're doing in your life.
Yeah.
And comfortable and like safe. Like, if there was a medical emergency, can you swing it, financially? Like those kinds of things where it's not scary if there's like an emergency.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
I think that's my bar. Generally, I like to keep low. And I think
under promise, over deliver. Right? Even in life. That's great though. But in theory, if that's, what did you say? Happy, safe, and comfortable. What else is there? Like
right?
what more is there?
Yeah.
In life than to be comfortable, which is assuming, your food and shelter needs are kind of met, and happy because you have fulfilling things to do, fulfilling people around you, and safe. It's kind of the ultimate thing.
What else do we need?
Right. I love that. Oh, for some reason, that's just like hitting me. It's very profound. Profound simplicity. That's lovely.
That's my brand.
I love. Hey, that's a great brand. That's a great brand.
Mostly simplicity.
So, okay. Do you feel like that simplicity is reflected in your Stitch People portraits? Do you keep them very simple, or do you go all out with details?
Well, I mostly do commissions. And at this point, and sometimes people just want really basic, but I'm like, just tell me what you want and I'll do it. Like anything that you want. And just the one I just finished the other day, he was like, I do a lot of welding. Can you make a welding helmet? And I was like,
awesome.
I will. I was like, challenge accepted.
Yeah.
You're getting a welding helmet.
Like on his little character?
He wanted, he wanted, so I couldn't figure out how to do it. And my husband helped me kind of sketch it out on my iPad. And here I have it. I have like my
fun
little welding helmet.
So we've got, to describe for the listeners, a man and a woman and a cat. So cute. And it's like he's got this helmet on and the face shield part of the welding thing is like up. So you can still see his face.
Yeah. I was like,
but that's legit. That looks spot on.
I had to Google image search a lot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get those curves just right. Like when you're constrained by the squares and you ultimately have like a 90-degree angle or a 45-degree angle. That's why I do all those wacky like 2-to-1 ratio stitches, or just do what you got to do. You just make the lines you got to make to get there. And you did. It looks awesome.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot more comfortable doing like embroidery.
Oh, good.
And just kind of doing that kind of thing, which was very out of my comfort zone because I like my squares.
Yeah.
As we talked about. But I was always having a problem with people with very blonde hair.
Blonde is hard,
And I was like, if it's the right color, it looks like a skin helmet. And I was
right?
like, this looks terrible. So the different texture of embroidering the hair
Mm-hmm.
makes a big difference. So I was
Yep.
like, I gotta learn how to do this. Because for a long time I was doing stuff for family and like we're all this color hair. We're all very
Yeah.
dark color hair. And so the first time I had a commission, they had a very blonde child. I was like, oh no,
It's
what do
happening.
I do? But it's good. It pushed me out of the comfort zone. And so, I feel more comfortable doing hair, doing different kinds of hair, doing welding helmets,
Right.
doing, whatever
How
people
did you
ask.
teach yourself that? Is that something you just like jumped into and figured out? Or did you learn kind of like
Totally.
from the community? I know people give a lot of tips and tricks there, and, we've done videos and stuff. Was it just like you just kind of decided and jumped in and figured it
Yeah,
out?
it's mostly that's how I do most things. I just kind of like, I just
Love
gotta
that.
figure this out as I go. Um, but yeah, like, I always like I searched on the Facebook group, this Stitch People Facebook group, like welding helmet, or I always look it up first to see if
Yeah.
people have good ideas for it or like tutorials or whatever.
The search bar in the Stitch People community?
Um, but yeah, like there's so many like incredibly talented people
Yeah.
in that community. It's amazing.
It's incredible. It is like actually mind blowing.
And everyone is so nice.
Yeah.
It's like every time I want to quit the internet, I'm like, oh, but there's these little corners, like this group that
Yeah.
is just everyone is so nice.
So
Um,
supportive.
and if someone has a question, people are like, let me help, let me, show you what I did, or here's an
Right?
idea, or here's a YouTube video that'll help you with this technique. It's just so nice. It's just
Yeah.
it's so lovely. But yeah, like I'll go there, or a lot of times it is trial and error and ripping out heads and like doing it until it looks right,
Yeah.
or
And it's
right
worth
enough.
it. Like you've mentioned that a couple times that you just kind of bite the bullet if you have to rip something out and you just rip it out and do it again, because oftentimes, if you make what you perceive to be a mistake, because I won't say that like it's inevitable, but if you're unhappy with an element, if you can see what the issue is, like, yeah, you just, it helps to give you the practice and the permission to just start from scratch, undo the thing, try again, get it right. And it's I feel like it's a very forgiving craft in that way. Like sometimes the holes get a little
Yeah, as long as you're
enlarged.
within the area that you pull out, it's
you
fine.
sometimes have to, some trickery to get things, to get the fabric back where it needs to be if you're not filling in the same stitches.
Is there a trick for that or no?
What I will do, like, for those, if you haven't followed along, if you've stitched something and you have to cut it out or pick it out, oftentimes the holes in the Aida fabric will be a little bit enlarged where the stitches were. And you can kind of tell, you can kind of see it, that something was there.
It's like
and
a
it is
shadow
no more.
almost.
Yeah, it's strange. It's not that there's any floss there or floss fuzz necessarily, but it's just the holes are enlarged. What I will do is I'll take the point of my needle. I use my needle as a tool for so many things. And I'll kind of poke the tip of the needle in not the holes of the Aida fabric, but let's say you have a square where all four corners are a little bit enlarged. I'll poke my hole right in the middle of the fabric of that square and kind of like nudge the
wiggle it?
threads up and down and left and right. And I'll do that in all the squares around the enlarged holes and then kind of tug at the fabric. And it does kind of help to reset things a little bit. So
I'll try that next time.
it's not foolproof. Like it's not always going
It's
to.
never gonna be
Right. But
pristine.
it helps. It helps.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So,
a good tip.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm always using my needle, poking at stuff, pulling at stuff.
But that's how you learn. And I
Yeah.
think, there's so many techniques that I've kind of like for framing or for like making like fluffy cats or anything. Like I make up my own technique and I'm like, oh, that came out pretty cool,
Yeah.
and I think that's what's nice about it is you can play with it and experiment and see what works. And I don't think there's one. I mean, maybe someone has a very particular way of doing things, but I think you can kind of do it however you want.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yes. Scream it from the mountaintops. You can do it however you want. Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's just squares. So in that, just make it work for you. And I wouldn't even, I mean, it doesn't even need to be consistent because it can just be something that you do for yourself for fun, for creativity. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to learn all the little tips and tricks that make it look super professional. Like you just go for it. There's no right way with crafting.
Yeah. I can't wait to make something. I think I'm like so full on holiday commissions, but I said after January, I haven't made something for myself in like the longest time. So I'm gonna look and see if I can find like a nice pattern, like not people, just like a pattern.
Yeah, just something beautiful.
And just to do it for myself.
I love that. So you said you've got a ton of Christmas stuff coming up, which reminds me to ask, do you have a favorite portrait that you've ever done in all of the many, many portraits you've made?
I mean, I was thinking about that. I don't know if I have a favorite. I did the Schitt's Creek family.
Oh, fun.
Like came out so good. But I use it as an example to show people like be like annoyingly specific with like how you want people to look, like shoes.
Because you can.
Yeah. And I'm like, and then it'll really look like them,
It always surprises people how much detail you can fit into such tiny, tiny spaces.
Yeah.
We're working with like 1/8 of an inch sometimes, but to put one thread of dark, tiny little 1/8 of an inch stitch or smaller above the eye of John Rose gives those big dark eyebrows, and all of a sudden you have Eugene Levy. Like there it is.
Yep. Yeah. No, I remember when I was stitching it and I was like, he doesn't look right. He doesn't look right. He doesn't look like Johnny. It doesn't look right. And then I put in the eyebrows and I was like, hey,
there it is. Yeah.
There he is.
Little details.
Yeah. But I think the things that I like to stitch the most are where people are specific about like how they want people to look. And when I stitch people who have like a very particular look, people sometimes have just like their look that they have. And that's always so fun to stitch that, because when you feel like it really looks like them, I'm like, yes, it looks so good. Nailed it. So I think those are my favorites. I mean, I did, certain families that I love. Those are always nice to give as gifts and stuff. And it's nice to see it in like the background when I Zoom call with people. I'm like,
it's always fun. And you're like, you like it. You really like it.
Because sometimes I don't know. Like I'll send it off and I don't really hear anything back. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I hope they got it. Hope they liked it. Hope you find your dad. That's what that voice always makes me think of. Bye, buddy. And that's hard too when you, especially about the commissions. It's nice because you always kind of have incoming stuff that's new and interesting and different, but because you don't have that like personal connection of actually giving them the gift, you don't get to see how it's received. You don't get to see it in the background of Zoom calls. Like you kind of send, you create these little babies and you send them off into the world and just hope for the best.
I've totally used the baby analogy. Yeah. I'm like, I've spent so much time with your family. You have no idea. But like looking at the pictures, we were out for a walk with Phoebe the other weekend, and I see this couple and their dog walking towards me, and I look at them and I'm like, I was like, is that Milo? And they were like, what? And I was like, I did your stitch. Their sister had commissioned it.
Oh my god!
I was like, I did your stitch. They're like, oh my god! But I was like, I recognize.
Small world.
Yeah, but it's like I've stared at that dog for so long trying to get all the spots just right. I was like, I see you, but I see people in town all the time, and I'm like, you don't know who I am, but I know who you are because I've been stitching you.
So cool. I love that.
Most of my commissions, I advertise on our like local moms group.
Oh, fun.
So like people, so it's like mostly local.
Yeah. That's a really interesting thing because most of my commissions that I've done in the past were, I mean, I've done some for friends and family, but mostly just, strangers. I don't know who they are, and all around the country, and you just send them off. It's so how cool that you actually get to
I know.
Like it's like celebrity spotting almost.
I know, and
because you do have to
creepy.
look right, but you have to look so close at these sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, somebody with those eyebrows, and you're going, why doesn't he look right? Oh, and you're like zooming in. Oh, it's the eyebrows, or certain streaks of hair colors, or certain clothing. Like you really do kind of get to know these people, and especially based on the photos that they send you. You know, you're kind of absorbed that memory of that moment of that vacation or whatever.
Absolutely. There was one family
it's very
in particular,
special.
I remember.
It's very intimate.
Oh, it is. And I remember, and I told her after, I said, you know, I get pictures all the time, and a lot of them are like, you know, posed family pictures, which are great or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was, she wanted a big one with her parents and the grandkids and everybody. And I said, in all the pictures, everyone just looks like they love each other so much. Like the picture, and it was just candid stuff like grandma on the couch with kids.
Right.
But there was just something in particular about that family and about the pictures they sent. And I'm getting goosebumps. God, see, I'm an old lady. It was just, I was like, you could feel the love in those pictures, you know? And I was like, that was just really special to be able to do that for your family.
Right.
And I think that's like a big part of it is, you know, people love these little, and they're so little when they come out, but people love them so much, and so much time went into them, and you can really, it's like, it's such a nice gift to give to people, even though I'm not giving the gifts,
right?
You know, but I made the
But
gift.
you are, with the gift of your talent and your time and your practice and your attention to detail. Like you do put a lot of heart into it.
Yeah.
You know, it's I think that gets at the heart of kind of handmaking at large, where that's why people make stuff with their hands.
Yeah.
That's why people paint and do woodworking and make custom things, because it matters. Like
it does. It matters
special.
So much.
And something made for you by someone who knows what they're about and does it well and cares about their craft enough that they care about you to give you the best thing they can produce because it matters to them. Like it's this weird little symbiotic thing. You know, you were able to give love to this family because they love each other so much and share that with you so you could share with them, and back and forth.
And it's also
goes.
And what's nice too is it's like, I think in particular how you created the Stitch People, it's like it really lets people feel seen. Like it kind of gets, you know, even though it's like a shirt and hair and all that, it can really get to the essence of like, that's them, you know, it's not just like a quilt. It's like, this is like how I see you, you know?
I love that word essence. That's exactly what all those little details are. Because at the end of the day, like that, you know, they're little templated bodies, right? Little templates of body shapes. But that's kind of all we are, right? Like most human beings are just like a little skeleton with some organs and bones and skin, you know, like we're all just kind of a similar template. But what makes us is what we wear, how we style ourselves, you know, all of our colorings and our shapes and it's the essence.
And it's like, people are like, oh, the baby sweater. Can you put the special baby sweater on the baby, or like this special t-shirt or whatever. And it's like, those are the little things that you hope that it's nice that someone notices, you know,
but infusing it with meaning, personal meaning.
So it's really like it's just such a nice thing to do for people.
I love that. What a beautiful, and for yourself. What a beautiful summary. And I love that. That felt like such a nice little like ribbon to tie on this conversation. So before we say goodbye, I can't believe the time has flown by. I'm going to rapid fire you some questions. And we'll start with, what is your favorite beverage?
Icy water.
I love that. Hey,
I'm an old lady.
We are 70% water, so that's very important. Did you have a favorite toy or stuffed animal as a child? And what was it?
Barbie dolls.
Really? I love and respect that. Same. I was a Barbie girl. What is like the number one food item that you always have to have at your house? That you like, just
in
like
my house?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
What's always in your cupboard?
I don't know. In my cupboard. What's in my cupboard?
Like a cereal or a snack? Yeah?
I have a lot of, God, I'm so boring.
Hardly. No. Why? There's too much judgment in that. We like what we like and we are who we are. I love to own it. You know what I mean? Do you have a favorite song?
A favorite song? Ooh. Oh, I know this should be rapid fire and I'm really thinking hard.
Oh, that's okay. I know I sometimes do this half so that I can think about these things myself.
My favorite song, my goodness. I think one of the first ones, I really like Water Fountain by the Tune Yards. That's like a good one for the car.
I don't know it. I'll have to check it out. Yeah. And you mentioned that you're a theater kid. Do you have a favorite show, like a favorite Broadway show?
Let's see. We did, the favorite one that I did was, it wasn't a Broadway, it wasn't a musical. What was it called? Oh my God. Musical Comedy Murders of 1940. It was like a murder mystery with like opening.
A murder mystery. You?
So much fun. See, there we go. I'm wrapping it all. I'm bringing it back around.
There you go. Hey, you're nothing if not consistent. There you go. And last but not least, you have, this one's a two-part. Do you have a favorite like vacation destination that you visited on a trip / what is your dream vacation destination?
Oh God, vacations. What are those?
Who knows? Foreign concept. Something of yesterday.
Before we had kids, my husband and I went to Ireland, and I really liked Ireland a lot. I really enjoyed that.
I've heard great
whole
things.
Situation. And I also, I like Italy too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Spencer and I have been watching Stanley Tucci's Taste of Italy.
My mom
something
was
like that.
telling me. Oh, I'm Italian. My mom was telling me all about this.
Delightful, by the way. It is like, it is just, there's no other word for it. It is so well done. I think it's won some Emmys already for quality in general. But yeah, we are watching this and our takeaway is like, well, we're going to have to go to Italy now because obviously, like, just look at it. Just look at it. And it's hard. Food shows are hard because you watch them enjoying all these things and you're like, I want it. I want that. So that's Italy. I love that. Okay. So Italy, have you been there or is that
when I was
the
a
dream?
teenager?
Okay. So is there anywhere you haven't been that's a dream?
Anywhere I haven't been that's a dream. I want to go to I want to see all that cool geology stuff in Iceland.
Oh yeah. Iceland's
like the springs and the
it's like otherworldly
things coming out. Yeah, I want to see all that.
Cool. I love that. You were going to say something about Italy. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no. It just seems like I feel like all of us collectively in the world need 2 weeks to just sit and not do anything.
Right. But in like a restful vacation way, not in a weird quarantine, you have no choice kind of way.
No, not a quarantine way. In a pleasant way.
Exactly. Because there is a difference. And at first with all the COVID stuff, I think people are like, oh, time off. I'm just going to sit at home. Ooh. But there's like a psychological, that low simmer boil of what the heck is going on? Yeah. That's a very stressful thing. We all just need a 2 week.
No, but cruise. I feel like Italy would be a nice place to just go and sit for 2 weeks and not need to do anything.
Right.
And just read some books, listen to some murder podcasts, and just, eat food for 2 weeks.
That sounds like a dream. I hope you get that. I wish that for you. I'm manifesting it into the universe.
For us all.
Yeah, for us. Italy for us
whatever
all.
That is for you.
That's right. I love it. Well, Annie, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for this fun conversation. It's great to get to know you. And I don't think you're an old lady. I just think you're a very cool person. So how about that?
I need to put that somewhere. I need to write that down. You're not an old lady.
Just very cool person. You're just very cool. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Annie, am I right? Folks, what a joy. I think she's so lovely. I just really look up to people who know what they're about. Even in what she was saying about, finding herself and what her interests are again. I still think it is so clear who Annie is at her core, which is just someone who loves deeply and cares deeply and just puts a lot of time and attention into how she presents in the world and the example she leads for her children. Just so great. Thank you, Annie. And thank you for listening to today's episode of the Stitch People podcast. Thank you for enjoying these conversations with Stitch People like you. I would so appreciate it if you could take a minute, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast if you can, and leave us a rating and review. It helps with all the nerdy internet stuff, algorithms and being visible and all of this. It's kind of cumbersome, but it is what it is, and we really appreciate your help there. Also, share the podcast if you genuinely like it. Share it with people who you think would want to listen. It will help us to shine all our cross-stitchy goodness into the world. You can check out everything Stitch People has to offer. We have so many patterns that a lot of people don't know about, tons of cross-stitch books, merch, and more at stitchpeople.com. And please connect with us online on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. We love to see what you're up to. Lastly, I want to thank all of you in the Stitch People community for your support of us, and more importantly, for your positive and cooperative encouragement of one another. That was a big theme of today's episode, and it really makes all the difference for people to set their own egos aside, support one another, and just joyfully and genuinely help each other. It's the best. And I truly love you all for that, so thank you. I'd also like to thank the incredible Stitch People team making all of the magic happen behind the scenes. Our fully licensed jazzy tunes were created by Jonathan Boyle, and our wonderful sound designer is the one, the only, the best, Brandon Yost. Have a wonderful day, my friends, and happy stitching. The Stitch People podcast is a production of Beanski LLC and Stitch People. Copyright 2022, all rights reserved.